7:13 now at News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Welcome to Wingin' It Wednesday. Brought to you by our friends over at Service Cadillac and Miss Ross. I thought an imposter showed up this morning because guess what? I didn't see you.
It's a real person in a real Cadillac.
A real person in a real Cadillac.
Yes.
Does it feel great?
Yes, it really does.
Was it cold enough today to use the
I've been
heated steering wheel?
spoiled by some of those European models, but I want to tell you, this far exceeds any expectations I had.
That's awesome.
I mean, it is
and
really
you know what?
amazing.
When you drive a Cadillac, just makes you want to spit red, white, and blue.
Oh, man. That's right.
American made.
Right, take it.
Love
take it.
They're American made?
Yes, they are. A Cadillac is a loud and proud member of the General Motors family.
Oh, well.
Here in great U.S. of A. Okay, so we had a little opening act this morning. Stafford's on the road, so he couldn't be here this morning, and it's always too hard to have us three in here and do someone on the phone, so we said, we'll give you the first crack at the bat. We hit on the Bryan Pope recall, and I think we listen to your show all week, every week, talking about what happened with the vote. Stafford, what's your name? Warren. Do you have any? Do you have any parting words about the election? Or are you ready to just move on with your life?
I am ready to move on with my life.
Sounds great. Let's move on to Bryan Pope. The recall petition seems to be
except for one quick thing.
Yeah.
I really think it's unfortunate that people would vilify those who exercise their freedom of speech and their right to participate in the political process and have a different viewpoint. Mm-hmm. And it's really unfortunate that, you see these people that vilify personally, and it has nothing to do with that. It's a difference of opinion about the warehousing the taxpayers' money when we should right-size the millages. We should take a really hard look at all of the millages and really see what's working, what's not working, and work it in the best interest of both providing the services and giving the taxpayers some relief.
And you know what, we'd all be... you're not going to pull the wool over our eyes. We know there are other departments within Lafayette Consolidated Government that are also overfunded. So there are other places to find this as well, which has come up. I think it'll come up again. It'll have to.
I think so.
And then we, if not, we have this great little experiment called the Ross Report where it's bound to come up at some
Well,
point.
I'll tell you what. I told Mark Pope, I said it's full employment for watchdogs from here on out. That's a slush fund, pure and simple.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the Bryan Pope situation. I got to hand it to the Independent. You covered it whenever they were kind of starting with this Bryan Pope stuff and looking at what they did. This is
I tried to get Amy on again.
Oh, yeah. This is a publication that's not even in print anymore.
Exactly.
But the attorney's still fighting that fight and want his probation revoked.
Well, and with good reason. He's stonewalled on everything. And I think what we discussed yesterday on the show, which, by the way, is on from 2 to 4, the Ross Report. Get a little plug.
Love a plug.
Shameless plug. But what we discussed yesterday was what can possibly be the motivation for stringing it out this long, because, of course, the taxpayers are paying the legal bills to a degree. He's going to have to come up with something, and there is going to be a real answering for this. He's going to have to answer for this. Well, anyway, it occurred to me as I was driving into the studio yesterday, it's got to be about the retirement. He's holding on because, in the state retirement system, the last 3 years are used for your retirement.
Yeah,
however, there's an issue about if he's convicted of a felony, which he is, he perjured himself, can they take away a portion or all of that retirement? So, plus the fact that the tab is running up on his lawyers and we're paying for that. Mm-hmm. And it's really an unfortunate. He was a young man who had I told you he was my neighbor at one time, and I really like he and his wife. And I thought he had a bright career ahead of him. He declined to run the first time that Nikki Picard said he was not going to run again. Well, he changed his mind at the last minute. That was like 8 years ago or so, or 12 years ago. But now, the last time, Nikki said, okay, well, I've decided I'm going to run again. And that's when Bryan said, look, I held off the last time. I am running this time. And he did win. And, a lot of people had expectations, a fresh young face. And it just went downhill so fast because in my opinion, he listened to the wrong people, the wrong political consultants, and it went all south. And then he lied about his involvement in the sheriff's race. And it was stupid for him to get involved in that in the first place. There was a no-win situation there. Either way, you risk, making enemies on either side. So now, to me, it does come down to the retirement. And I think it's a 6-year term. Remember that. It's not a 4-year term.
Yeah.
It's a 6-year term, and he's almost 3 years into it. In terms of the parish executive committee, I've questioned several of the members about that. I think they should have really said, in the interest of, just the optics of it, you should resign. you're opposed on the parish executive committee. I really believe that he should.
And they're making a lot of decisions on the executive committee level, which he's a part of because he's part of it right now.
If he attends the meetings, who knows?
Warren, I want to ask you this. The irony to me in all of this is that one of the key functions of the marshal's office is rounding up criminals. Does it make sense to have someone like Bryan Pope, who there's even questions about, and more than questions, there's a conviction in there and community service that people say is not getting done?
You know, first of all, I question why you even have a marshal service in town. It should be, in my estimation, just a part of the police department, because who handles all of that type of activity outside the city limits of Lafayette? It's the sheriff's department. It's a certain group within the sheriff's department. And I did listen to an unnamed show yesterday afternoon, part of it, when somebody called in, and this guy started saying, well, but you'd have to come up with all this money, and you'd have to have these people. And like, no, you don't. And the host of that show, very bright young lady, says,
new in town.
Well, can't you just transfer the people over there and that budget, you know, and you'd have less of a budget. But anyway, I think Nicky Picard, the big question has come up now about him getting paid, taking the civil fines and keeping that money, which I find that to be just pretty outrageous. Then I've read before where Nicky Picard did the same thing. Well, no wonder he didn't want to give that thing up. And he was 104 years old and still running for the office or whatever, you know. And that you know, how much did Bryan Pope made last year? $280,000 or something like that.
220.
220,000. No, which is still...
well, the supplemental with the fees. He's the second highest public person in Lafayette Parish.
But anyway, get back. But if you talk about the parish executive committee, somebody can ask a person to resign, but there's only 3 reasons that you can expel a person from that committee by state law, and it is set up by statute, and you get elected to it. And the only 3 reasons are you switch parties, you move out of your district, or you're convicted of a felony. And if one of those 3 happen, then you are obliged to remove that person.
Well, he has been convicted of a felony. He's appealing it. He perjured himself.
Well, I mean, but I think that in the eyes of the law, you're not, as long as you're under appeal.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you just keep on exercising.
Well, that's why I said, in my opinion, he should have resigned. You know, that would have been the appropriate thing to do. In terms of the salary, Terry Huval, who manages 500 people, 500 employees, 2 big divisions, utilities system and fiber, and he's making just slightly more, about $260,000 or something like that. I don't know the exact number. For 500 people, and Bryan Pope is managing 23 employees. And by the way, he did request an opinion. Apparently, he requested an opinion about that very thing because you remember the issue came up. Shreveport and Lafayette are specifically proscribed. They are forbidden. The marshals in Shreveport and Lafayette are forbidden from the garnishments, the civil fines and forfeitures. They cannot directly pay themselves with that. They can run their office with that, but they can't directly pay themselves because consolidated government, they function under consolidated government, and consolidated government funds the office, and it's the emoluments clause and all that good stuff. So he's not supposed to be lining his pocket. Wow. Well, he requested an opinion from the Attorney General, and because he was the requester, I'm sure he had very good legal advice on this. He could deep six it, and he did. Which tells you that the opinion did not go in his favor. If it went in his favor, he would have released it.
But I thought the AG said that he didn't contact them yesterday. I thought that was the big deal.
He did not contact them to approve it.
To approve it. Okay.
What happened? The Pope did not allow them to release the content of the opinion, so that's why the AG sent the letter out, because the folks running the recall are asking, where's the opinion?
Wow. All right. A big nursing home audit happened in our state, and as you can imagine, it seems like someone else that's getting a kind of a ballooning pocket of money, and doesn't seem that care is getting better either. We'll talk about this next with our panelists on Wingin' It Wednesday. Brought to you by our friends over at Service Cadillac, 1212 and 1214. Ambassador Caffrey will tell you all about the wash next on Acadiana's Morning News. Welcome back to you and to our panelists, Carol Ross and Warren Cottle, revved up on this pre-Turkey Day Wednesday.
Hey, turkeys.
So a new audit found Louisiana nursing home payments keep increasing despite flat occupancy rates and low quality of care rankings. Warren, is this just another business that has figured out how to just keep the payments coming in and keep the services going down?
Well, in the interest of fairness and transparency, I must say that I did not get these topics until about 3 minutes ago, so I don't know. I didn't see anything about a nursing home audit or whatever. Don't know what you're talking about. But as far as what you just asked, is it a way just to keep money flowing in? I think that goes with a whole lot of things that are closely regulated by the government, is that people figure out how to go in there and mine the dollars. And, the colleges and such stuff that have done that with student loans or whatever, the one person who taught at one of those private schools once said, the purpose of this thing is a mining company. And somebody said, mining? He said, yeah, they mine dollars in student loans. And, and nursing homes have long been, they're a necessity that we have to have, and that somebody said that it's like a storage unit, which is what Rob said earlier, and it's kind of like the old opium dens or whatever they had in China at one time, where the old people would go there and take the pain-killing opioids until they died. And so, nursing homes are basically that. It's a place where you go to die. And I think they're the most depressing place in the world, but they are necessary. My mother used to say, who lived to be 97, she was in a nursing home for about 3 months, but she used to say, I don't ever want to be in a nursing home. I hope I die on the way to it. And the good thing about it was she was transferred there from a hospital, and by that time, she really didn't know she was in a nursing home. She just thought she'd moved into another house. And so that was a blessing. But those places, that God loves the people who work there and the things they do and the things they go through. But, is there fluff in the money that goes into those things? I would say that more than likely there is.
Carol, your thoughts?
All right. I want to say up front, I know there are some wonderful nursing homes in this area. I agree with that. And I really, as Warren said, I just admire the people who work in those places, because, as he pointed out with his mom, by the time someone gets to a nursing home, it is really for a dire physical thing, generally speaking. And so I give them all the credit in the world. However, from a political standpoint, the unfair competition that goes on because of the clout of the nursing home lobby, the home health folks, and there are surveys to prove that home health is more effective. It does deserve more funding. It should get the same kind of subsidy from the government that the nursing homes get. Most of them are Medicaid supported. And so they have figured out, as you know, the way to get as much as they can, squeeze as much as they can out of the system. In Louisiana, we talked about this extensively. So I feel like, Warren, I'm at an advantage over you, because we did talk about this extensively, and we have talked about it on the Ross Report before. Because I get calls from the home health people, they do not have the funds or the clout at the legislature to be able to compete fairly in terms of legislation. So the legislation unfairly favors the nursing home operators, some of whom, including in this area, are former legislators and understand how the system works. And so they get those advantages for themselves. The nursing homes have increased their rates 54% over the last decade. However, their occupancy level has remained flat, less than 1% increase over that period of time. And the problem is the audit by the legislative auditor says the quality of care is dismal. It's dismal. We're last in the country in terms, we are very high in terms of reimbursement, but last in terms of care. Something needs to be done, and more people want to stay at home, and it costs less for people to stay at home. So maybe this will be the legislative session where they decide that they're going to be not going to be held hostage by the nursing home lobby.
It was $19 million is what this latest thing was targeting, that they overbilled. And part of it is the way I understand it from reading a couple of the stories, they're not required to do as much scrutiny during an audit as you would think that they would. The type of reporting
that they should have to do. And so, I do fault, the Department of Health says now that they are keeping an eye on it now. Well, what took them so long? That's number one. Number two, and by the way, long term, let's see how that works out. Number two, John Bell Edwards ran on the fact that he was going to reform this whole system, and now he's backing off. And I tell you, if you look at the campaign contribution forms, I guarantee you will find heavy contributions from the nursing home lobby. I don't fault them for that. It's the way the system works. However, I think that the watchdogs on our side should have a little more bite.
I'll tell you this. The part that kind of caught me off guard, the Advocate has a big story about it this morning and kind of listing some of the rankings. And here's the report from AARP. Ranked Louisiana 49th out of 50 states for the frequency of bed sores.
Yep.
47th in the nation out of 50 states for residents who are hospitalized. And whenever you throw Washington, D.C. in there, we are still 51st.
We're 51st. We're after Washington, D.C.
For the number of residents who are on antipsychotic medications.
And I'm going to tell you something else, having gone through it for a year, being with my dad in my home, right? So it was home health care, right?
Right.
Now, he was fortunate enough that years ago he paid for a long-term
care policy.
Long-term care policy, and he made that a priority for himself. Thank God he did. But I can tell you the part of the big problem, like with the bed sores and the different things, ask some of these people what they're being paid to do the job that they're having to do in some of these places.
Oh, I know.
$8 an hour.
If they're lucky.
I say God bless them because I am telling you, they
would do that? Guys, you have no idea what people go through with an older individual who has
a myriad
of problems and no control necessarily over any bodily function. Imagine you have to do that on a day-to-day basis, and somebody wants to pay you $7.25 an hour. It is awful.
Well, it's obvious that the people who work there are not the ones making the money. But I mean, you got to have a servant heart to even want to work in a place like that. You know,
and but it just to my mind, and then there's $19 million in overbilling.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, guys. Let's get that part straight. Give that back to the taxpayers. But nothing's going to happen to that. Nothing will happen with that.
Well, I hope you're not right. I hope that the legislature really needs to step in on this. But of course,
once it's already paid, all you can do is go forward.
That's correct.
I don't think anyone's
going to say. That's what they're going to say.
They're
not going to go back and ask for it.
And the thing is, the most of them are funded. Most of them are Medicaid funded.
Exactly.
But your dad was smart enough to get a long-term care policy, so he could get the care in home. But most people don't have that.
That's absolutely right, because it's just something either they can't afford it,
right?
Okay,
or they don't think that they need it.
They don't think that they need it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people just never think, oh well, this could happen to me, and I won't be in control, and I will need people to help me with everything.
Right.
So it's a shame.
Quite an audit.
They're not going to get that money back.
Quite an audit.
As taxpayers, we will never get that money back.
Well, I'd just like to see them improve services and
make it better.
You know, and keep a better eye on our money going forward.
All right, we're moving on. Take a break here. Moving on to our next segment. 3 members of a White House team staffed by military personnel removed from their positions after a little hanky-panky during the Asia trip.
No.
I guess there's maybe nothing else better to do.
Can you say Cartagena?
Yes, we'll see. We'll talk to our panelists next about this coming up on Wingin' It Wednesday at 7:33. Good morning.
All right. Don't forget the wash, man. Look, it's Wednesday, right before Thanksgiving. You know you're going to show up and you're going to be like your mom. Oh, it's always your mom, right? How come you didn't clean out that car, clean the outside of the car? Look, it'll take you. It's fast. It's super fast. It's fun because there's all these colors in it. Just go to the wash, right on Ambassador Caffrey. It's right next to Service Cadillac. It's easy.
I'll be honest, I'm the world's best son, but if my mom told me anything about the cleanliness of my car, I would tell her next time Uber's coming to pick you up from the airport.
Oh, cool.
I'm talking about my car, but I am at the wash like 3 or 4 times a week.
He's ridiculous. I thought I was bad. This was the worst
one. I'll tell you, you want to talk about service in action. I mentioned I went to the wash a couple times, and they cover your car with the suds, okay? Well, then you can't then wave me forward to come in because I can't see what you're doing.
Right.
So I said that one time on the air, and now I think they either know my car or they do it for everyone. I'm probably going to say they do it for everyone. They will wash off just that part so you can see. And I love those guys. So anyway, twice I've seen them run in there because something has come out of the bed of a truck. And you know that will mess everything up if any debris gets inside. That's why you're supposed to clean out the bed of your truck. You know that, Bern? You got to clean out your truck.
Yeah, because I drive a truck every day.
Yes. So if something gets in that track,
she can tell Brett.
It can cause problems. I've seen twice while I've been in there going through. Someone run in there, get soaking wet to pull something out from under my car.
Awesome, though.
That's service. Hey, 1212. Ambassador Caffrey, 1214 Ambassador Caffrey at Service. Chevrolet Cadillac, proud sponsors of Wingin' Wednesday.
Yes.
So, this story would make perfect sense if we change out White House Strategic Communications Agency with the Secret Service, because they've had similar issues in the past. But yesterday, 3 members of the White House Communications Agency, which is a military unit providing secure communication channels for Trump and others when they're overseas, they were dismissed after they're being investigated for having improper contact with foreign women during the Asia trip last week. Carol, your thoughts on this?
One night in Saigon makes a hard man humble.
Okay.
I don't think he knows that song.
I don't know that song.
You don't know One Night in Bangkok? Oh, my God.
Dude,
Bernie, come on.
It's okay. I'm YouTubing it right now. We'll fix that. We'll fix that. Don't worry.
Caught me off guard there.
Hey, look, boys will be boys, right? They figure, who knows what kind of women were they? Where were they? I don't have enough information to even have an opinion on this.
Are you not
and
busy?
Who cares anyway?
Yeah. There's not, but I guess I just think you're there.
Just as
now,
long as they're not in a
work.
position. All right.
It's a 12-day trip.
You're there to work.
You know.
Oh, it's a 12-day trip?
It was the 12-day Asia
There
trip,
you go.
so you never know.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah. So we feel so bad for them.
I'm not taking up for anyone in this situation.
They haven't been found guilty yet.
Yeah,
they're looking into it, right?
Right.
So
That's right.
they deserve the presumption of innocence just like anybody else. They would lose their security clearances, would be subjected to disciplinary measures. I'm assuming they had that training and they know that could happen to them if they do something inappropriate. So until we know exactly what the details are, and I probably believe that we never will, somebody will, but I don't think we will. And so,
but think about,
remember, look, they had weren't there some removed pences? They broke curfew and brought women back to their hotel rooms.
On Pence's
That
trip,
was Panama.
yes.
But then there was one during the Obama administration in
that
Cartagena. Yeah.
I think the thing about it is once you get to the level, look, they don't let just any enlisted person work that close to the president. You have reached a certain level in the military where you have clearances. All that stuff, Warren, is at risk. Security clearances subject to disciplinary measures, including court-martial.
Blackmail.
This could ruin
blackmail.
This could ruin a career if they are found guilty.
Oh, it absolutely can. I mean, and one of the sad parts about this thing is the age we live in today. Now, going back and talking about little transparency and all that stuff, I've got to say that in my days in the military, when I was associated or assigned to the diplomatic security services, which we did these same things, is that back then, that we had there were certain women that were off limits to us, and that was any woman that was from those communist bloc countries like Russians and whatever. But they did kind of overlook the Eastern European women. When I was in Cyprus, they worked in a lot of the cabarets and such stuff. But when George W. Bush came along, one of the people whom I loathe, actually put in an executive order in the Uniform Code of Military Justice to make dealing with sex workers punishable by jail term for military people, even in places where it was legal, like in Nevada in the United States or any of those foreign countries where it's legal. And I thought, and most of the people in the military just thought that was a step way too far. And so, go back to my days there. When the attack happened on the American Embassy in Saigon, Colonel
Before
George
it was a
Jacobson,
startup,
who worked for the CIA, who was retired,
it was just an idea.
About 20 years in Vietnam.
Then,
Didn't get a damn thing accomplished.
Everything
One of
changed.
the biggest holes I ever was running around with in my life.
Tell me how you really feel.
Thank you for that self-censorship.
He lived in that compound. If you ever seen any of those pictures or whatever, it was his house where that somebody was. It was Dick Huss was a friend of mine. Was trying to throw a pistol up to him, and that he shot the last VC that was left in that compound that day. And George Jacobson had a prostitute in there with him, and she was under the bed. So what happened to that? That was just like, shut up. We don't discuss those kind of things. And I mean, it was just standard practice. And when you're on these kind of trips. Were the women allowed into any kind of classified areas or whatever?
Area,
Secure area?
Yeah.
Of course not. And so, I'm going to tell you this. If you've ever been around those units, like the Secret Service, the presidential visits and all that stuff, those guys are about like rock stars. That they basically almost have to have somebody to keep the women away from them, because that when they see them come walking around there with that little lapel pin that shows who they are and such stuff as that, then
the sharp dressed men.
It's just like, oh my God,
Southern girl crazy about a sharp dressed man.
So I mean, and she said boys will be boys, but now if you look at it, by God, you got plenty of females in the Secret Service these days, and in this detail, too. And we can't distinguish between the two when it comes to girls will be girls.
Well, that's
Warren,
an interesting point.
Name one time that you've heard of a woman in the Secret Service inviting a man into a secure area. Name
I didn't say she had to invite a man.
Well, there you go.
Well, there we are on this.
Okay.
I believe that was that Colombian deal, that there was a woman involved in that.
I believe you
An
are
American
correct.
Secret Service agent who was involved with bringing the women into that hotel.
I chose the wrong line of work.
Apparently you did, young man.
To be a Secret Service agent.
Apparently.
All right, 7:47 now at News Talk 96.5 KPEL, Wingin' It Wednesday. Wow, talk about winging it.
Let's see. Here's your song. Well, it's taking forever.
Yeah, what's that?
What an intro.
I didn't have time to get to it. It's the original, I
Sounds
think,
pretty.
cut.
It was from a show. It was from a Broadway show, I think.
Yes. Come
So
on.
we'll just have to, maybe it's the karaoke version.
It might be.
No, I think it's the Broadway version with all the intro,
Well, but it looks like the original
So what's the name of this song?
One Night in Bangkok.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely Broadway.
Okay.
Lordy B.
Oriental setting in the city, don't know what the city is. Get the creme de la creme.
You don't know
from
this
the chess
song?
world in a show with everything. But
Yul Brynner.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
time flies, doesn't seem a minute since the Tyrolean star had the chess bars in it. All change, don't you know that when you play at this
Sit down,
level,
Bernie.
you know
What did I miss?
Get excited.
It's Iceland.
Carol, get off the chair.
This place. Even Warren is chair dancing.
Okay.
Now you know this song.
You never listened to the words, did you?
There are people that are car dancing right now.
Probably somebody just had a wreck, or somebody jumped out of a car dancing in the street at a stoplight.
Flash mob.
All right. Let's move on. We're going to take a break.
We have to take a break now.
Talk to you next. So on the KDN's Morning News, Wingin' It Wednesday wraps up.
That
All right,
man,
welcome.
I'm telling you. Talk
Welcome
about
back.
a rodeo.
Yes.
Bull rider.
All right, so
Lord.
something interesting happened yesterday in the press room. Can you turn my side on here?
Well, of course I can. Let me turn this on.
Let's
here,
listen
okay?
to
Yes.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders made reporters in the press room do something a little bit interesting
different.
in honor of Thanksgiving.
You probably also know we've got some other holidays like Thanksgiving coming up, and this will be our last press briefing before the Thanksgiving holiday in this room. So I want to share a few things that I'm thankful for, and I think it would be nice for you guys to do so as well before asking your questions. Obviously, you probably know, and it's no secret, that I'm clearly very thankful for all of you here in the room.
That was great.
And I think that goes without saying. But in all seriousness, I'm very thankful for my family, my faith, particularly thankful for the brave men and women of the military, many of whom are away from their families during the holidays, protecting the freedoms that all of us in this room and across this country enjoy. I'm thankful for the police, the firemen, and first responders who keep us safe here at home. And I'm certainly thankful for the incredible privilege serving this president and the American people. So this is how it's going to work today. Since I'm here and I get to call on you, if you want to ask a question, I think it's only fair, since I've shared what I'm thankful for, that you start off with what you're thankful for. So anybody want to be first on what they're thankful for?
I'll give it a whirl.
April, you've been so eager, so I'm going to go with you to start us off on what you're most thankful for.
I'm thankful for life. I'm thankful for my children. I'm thankful for 20 years in this job. I'm thankful to be able to talk to you and question you every single day.
I feel
I love the way she said every single day.
So anyway, really cool. I thought it was a fun, those things get so monotonous. Look, I had to cover them. And then, by the way, the White House press briefing was always an upgrade in what I do because you know what I used to do before I covered the press briefings was the State Department briefings, which are liquid or audio anesthesia. Okay, I mean it's just so inside details.
Terrible.
At least the White House usually has to deal with a lot more topical issues, so those are always more fun.
At least it was before Marie Harf was the spokesperson.
No, I caught Marie Harf.
Oh, you did? Oh my God! Oh my goodness!
They used to call Marie Harf at my previous place of employment "hot for teacher." Because she would wear her glasses. She would wear her glasses during the press briefings, but she wouldn't wear them anywhere else. So she'd show up and she'd put on her glasses, and it made people nicer to her. I think they were,
I think she was some kind of intellectual.
Probably so, yeah. Anyway, so I thought this was cool.
She was twirling her hair.
And then she opened her mouth and removed all doubt.
I'll tell you. Some people were mad about this thing, I'm not going to tell you that. And it seemed like it was, I will tell you, the people that we know, like the names from all the networks, depending on what you think about them, the ones who there, even the CNN people, all said what they were thankful for, asked their question. It was these little dweebs on row 6, who were like, I'm not doing that. Anyway.
Yeah.
I watched the whole thing. It was really kind of a neat thing that she did, trying to draw them out, I think maybe she had an underlying motive, but I really think she was sincere in putting out her own feelings.
Yep.
And they played along with her for the most part. Now, the reaction afterwards, but from some people, just, man, why'd they go along with her? Why would they playing along with her? She's with the enemy. It's like...
That's ridiculous.
It really is.
It's their Friday. The president's gone. It's their Friday.
Right, exactly.
And
when you lose your humanity, how can you call yourself a journalist?
Yeah.
How can you say you're going to report on anything when you have no heart left?
Well, I thought it was really a neat ploy for whether it was a ploy or not. I think she was sincere.
There were probably a lot of reasons she did.
I think a lot of people are gaining respect for Sarah Huckabee.
I was going to say, I think I was actually telling Bernie about the graph I see. Okay, Trump, I think is rather the people who love him, the people who don't. But I think it's changing a little bit. You know who I think is skyrocketing? Melania. Every time I see her do something, I'm like, they underestimated you, and you should have been on the campaign trail way more, in my opinion. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, too. You just have to sometimes give a little, but think about it, she followed after 2 failed press secretaries who didn't know how to handle it, didn't know, they took it too personal, did whatever. I love that even when there's questions she doesn't want to answer.
They interviewed her. She's been in politics since she was in the 6th grade. I mean,
right.
She's been running for student council and all that kind of stuff.
One of the biggest mistakes that public officials and public entities make today, we're just going to keep that under wraps. We're going to keep that under wraps. Boy, y'all are dumb.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hate to be so crude.
Like you're going to be able to keep a secret?
You cannot keep a secret anymore. When it affects public taxpayer money, stop trying to hide it.
And the
everybody's looking at you because everybody thinks they're a reporter and their rumor is the one that's correct.
And on the other hand,
when the legitimate people come to you and say, hey, guess what? We know this happened. Don't try to run and hide from it. Yeah. Don't try to run and I'm going to hide behind these words and all this. Just come out with it. We're not stupid.
On the other hand, Ivanka Trump should have kept her mouth shut about Roy Moore. I mean, she is a de facto representative of the administration. If the Trump people are playing it on one side, we're not getting involved in that. And then she comes out and says what she says. Really.
Well, now it's being used in the Democrats' ad.
Yes, it is. That's
the
my
theme of
point.
His ad. Yeah.
Exactly.
Warren, what are your thoughts on all this?
My real thoughts are that first of all, you're talking about the journalists and such stuff as that. I don't know where the journalists are anymore. There aren't any. The mainstream media now, I think is what Newt Gingrich once said. It's not news, it's propaganda, and it's all editorialized and it's all putting forth their agenda. And I think something like this every once in a while, it kind of shakes things up and brings them back down to life.
To remember that you are a human.
The one thing I would say that I am most thankful for, I'm thankful for a lot of things, but one of the things I'm really thankful for is I thank God that Donald Trump is my president and not those other people who were running in that race. And that I do think that this country has got some kind of a future now that we're at least looking at something other than a fascist socialist, communist regime
Go, Warren.
that those others tried to push on us and are still trying to push on us. The thing I think where the Trump group is lacking, and I think it's because what a lot of people have said, especially the swamp up there, is that he did not come out of politics. He is a political neophyte, and most of the people around him did not know that politics is guerrilla warfare today.
That's right.
And that that both sides have been engaged in it, but the Democrats have carried it to a real state-of-the-art level where it's nuclear warfare. Mm-hmm. And that Steve Bannon, I think, was probably the best person he had on his group who understood that, this is a down and dirty business. Yeah. And so that, anything he does, everything he does, you're going to get attacked on it. Mm-hmm. So, what Bernie said, just come out and tell it like it is. Yeah. By God, you need to come out there and you need to take it to him just like Donald Trump does, face to face. And let's get it on. Mm-hmm. You're going to badmouth me anyway? Well, fat boy, I'm going to tell you the way it is. Rocket Man. And it's, well, that's not presidential. You tell me what the hell was presidential. Was Harry Truman presidential? Was Lyndon Johnson?
Because it was one particular way.
Was Lyndon Johnson presidential? Time. Lyndon Johnson used to get on Air Force One and parade around naked in front of his teenage daughters, in front of secretaries. And that is a fact. The Secret Service said that if he wasn't president of the United States, he would have been in a mental institution.
Well, there you go.
And all these fascists today say, well, Trump is not presidential. Well, your damn guy certainly wasn't.
Well, you know what? Over and over again, by the way, we have a long history of this in our country, and I just want to say, I don't care how screwed up it is. It's the best.
You are absolutely right.
It is the best.
We have America.
And we have free speech still. And we have a Second Amendment still. And we have Donald Trump as president.
The Rush Report is this afternoon at 2. Get an extra dose of Carol. Warren, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Thanks for joining us,
I'm so grateful
everyone.
For all of you and all the listeners who really give us great support every day.
7:59 now at News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Coming up, Fox and local news headlines from Bernie coming up.